It's time to vote, Texas. I'm KVUE Political Director Ashley Goodo. Election Day is this Tuesday, May 26th. And to help you get ready to cast your ballot, we're bringing you interviews with the candidates going head-to-head in runoff races. In Austin, voters are deciding who will represent a large swath of the city in the Texas House of Representatives. State Representative Gina Hinojosa is now the Democratic nominee for governor, so the seat she's held for 10 years is open. And with no Republican running to represent District 49, whoever wins in the May runoff will presumably take her place. Back in March, 8 candidates ran for the seat. Montserrat Garibay, a member of former President Joe Biden's Department of Education, ended the night with 33% of the vote. Kathie Tovo, a former Austin City Council member, got 28%. First, we'll hear from Garibay. Thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us.
Yes, no, my pleasure.
You know, I want you to tell us what you believe is the biggest difference between you and Kathie Tovo.
So the biggest difference between Kathie and I is that I have been a lifelong bilingual educator, activist, and union organizer. For the past 25 years, I have been a teacher, a union leader, worked at the national level under President Biden at the U.S. Department of Education. So I have 25 years of experience, and I am the expert of education.
Yeah. You know, when you ask Kathie, you know, her position on this, the biggest difference, she says she's been in leadership positions before, and that gives her the experience she needs to go to the Capitol. You would say your experience matters. Tell me why.
Well, you know, being an educator, representing Austin ISD teachers and paraprofessionals, organizing and representing the Texas AFL-CIO union members in our entire state of Texas, 240,000 union members, custodians, Unite Here, carpenters, electricians, and then going to the national level and representing, leading the Office of English Language Acquisition, being the Senior Advisor for Labor Relations, and helping over 1 million public service loan people get their loans forgiven. That's a lot. That's leadership at the city, the state, and the national level. And with Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico running for higher office, they were our champions in education. And so we're going to have a big gap. And I bring that to the table. Experience matters in different levels. And more than ever, we need someone that is going to be bold, someone that understands the deep issues inside out. And that's what I bring to the table.
Education is obviously central to your campaign, to your platform. Talk to me about the steps you think Texas needs to take to better position itself in terms of public education.
So one of the skills that I learned at the Department of Education, you know, even though it's the Biden administration, I still had to work with people that not necessarily agree with our party. And so I've learned the power of utilizing data as a flashlight. And at the Department of Education, I learned that education, it's not a red or a blue issue. It's an issue about investing in our most precious assets, our students, the future of our country. And so I've learned that, you know, it's necessary to work with people that you don't agree. But when you talk about it, when you show data and say, these are the reasons why we need to work towards X, Y, and Z, we tend to align more because we all want our children to have the best education possible. I want to make sure that when I'm older, I have people that are paying their Social Security, you know, because that's going to help me. And so we have a great opportunity to invest in our education. And yes, it's the core issue because education is the foundation of our democracy. We live here in Texas, close to the border from Mexico. And so we have an opportunity to really work in workforce development. And we can expand that through the great businesses that we have, through the unions. And so we have an opportunity to really look and think outside the box and work in collaboration with others.
When you think about policy that you want to put in place, tell me a few examples of things that you want to see Texas do when it comes to education.
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we don't expand these vouchers and that we hold private schools accountable for getting these types of monies, right? We know that we're not going to be able to get rid of them, but we do know that we can work in collaboration with rural areas. And the fact that, fine, this money is going to be going to private schools, then we need to hold them accountable. And so one of my first bills that I would love to file is Make sure that if the private schools are getting this money, we need to make sure that they have all their teachers certified, just like we do in public schools. We need to make sure that the money that is going there, that we serve our most needed students, students with special education, emergent bilinguals, gifted and talented students. So we also need to make sure that they are held accountable by the same standards that we have from public schools. And right now that is not the case. We're seeing that this money is not going to the kids that need it the most. And so I want to make sure that that accountability piece is going to be important it's been important in my campaign, but it's important that we put that in the table, right? Rural areas, the public schools are the heart of their community. And so right now, whenever the vouchers start happening, we're going to have communities that are going to be broken, that are not going to have money that goes to the entire community. So we need to make sure that we hold them accountable, and that's what I want to bring. Another issue that I would love to bring, like I said, being here in Texas, we have the border. We have a lot of students who have the opportunity to be multilingual. Students, we have great dual language programs throughout our entire state. And so we need to make sure that we are providing our students the opportunity to be multilingual, to make sure that we can work in collaboration with the community colleges, with the high school, in these dual credit programs that we have, apprenticeship programs, all about workforce development. We have a great opportunity. We have great opportunities to do that. When I was at the Department of Education, I visited 23 states, and I saw the beauty of organizations, nonprofit, philanthropy, school district working together to make sure that they are investing in our students. And so thinking of all the different examples that I went through for the past 4 years with President Biden, I want to make sure that I bring those ideas to the table and that we invest in our students.
Obviously, one of the top issues for Texas voters, we're seeing it show up in poll after poll, is affordability, right? Folk, whether it's the gas prices or it is, paying the bills, right? The inflation, what they're paying at the grocery store. Folk want to see lawmakers take some action, make it more affordable. What things do you think the state can be doing to have a real impact there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that we need to do. In terms of affordability, yes, that is one of the top issues that I keep hearing when I'm knocking on doors. And people from North, South, and UT are worried about the fact that they can't afford to live here in Austin, right? That they live in the donut outside Austin, and that there's a lot of disparities on that. And so we have a great opportunity to think outside the box and bring people to the table. Austin ISD is doing something that I think it's really, that we can expand at the state level, having schools that are being closed, and partnering with nonprofit organizations like Habitat for Humanity, the whole Mueller area, the fact that Austin ISD was able to get housing for teachers, it's a great idea. I think we can expand that. And as we're closing more schools, there's an opportunity to really invest in housing so we can make sure that communities live in those places, so we can make sure that we have better enrollment in our schools. Now, it's a process, yes, but it's something that Austin ISD has been shown. So we can expand that at the state level and say, hey, these are ways where we can really work in collaboration, think outside the box, and really bring those students that need to be in our schools, in our community schools. We can do that by doing, that's just an example of what I'm thinking that I would love to do.
When we look at this particular primary race back in March, you came out on top, right? But it was a crowded field.
8 people.
Yeah, 8 people landing you in this runoff race. What are you doing to try to get voters out, to get the electorate out, especially considering the date of this election?
Well, we are working very hard. I am an organizer by heart, and so I'm blog walking every day. I'm talking to our community. And one of the great things about living in Travis County is that we have a very diverse community. They want to be part of our democracy. And so reaching out to those that look like you and me, it's important. Speaking to them in Spanish, talking to them about the opportunities that we have to just do the work at the Capitol that needs to get done, but to bring them alongside me, right? We have a great opportunity to organize in House District 49. We're so lucky because we have the Capitol. Yes, I will do the legislative session, and I will do the drafting and killing bills and all of that, but I'm also going to bring those voices, those very important voices, to the table, right? I was in the Austin ISD school board back in November when 10 schools were closed, and it was heartbreaking. Parents from Ridgetop, parents from Becker were devastated that their schools were closing. And these are great dual language schools, right? And so I think there's an opportunity to organize in a year long saying, hey, there's the upcoming election, the legislative session is coming. We can have town hall meetings, organizing meetings, how to tell your story, how to identify who representatives you need to talk to make sure that we pass certain bills. An year-long organizing campaign, so whenever the legislative session comes, we'll have an army of constituents coming to testify, identifying the issues that are important for them. And that's what I bring to the table, that organizing lens, that people are thirsty. They want to be part of our communities. The fact that they are, that I was the top vote getter out of 8 candidates, they like something different. They want us to have them at the table with me. Yes, my name is in the ballot, but I'm bringing thousands of people with me, and I'm bringing their stories because I have lived experiences, and that is very important. I've been undocumented. ICE is all over the place in my neighborhood. I know what that feels. ICE is destroying our communities, right? Our governor is spending so much money at the border. That money is not being well utilized. We need that money to be invested in our public schools.
As you're going out and you're talking to people, you're hearing their stories, what are they telling you are the key issues to them?
For them, education is a big issue. They want to make the fact that so many schools are being closed in Austin ISD, it's heartbreaking. People are trying to decide, do I enroll my child in elementary schools or do I go to private schools? That's a big issue. UT students, when I go and talk to them, a big issue is the fact that, they can't afford to live in the loop of UT. It's too expensive, right? And a lot of them have to work. So they have to decide, okay, I work, I pay my tuition, I pay the rent. And so those bread and butter issues are super important. Everyone I talk to hates I-35 and MOPAC. And hate is a really strong word, but they do hate it. I think we have a great opportunity to work through Project Connect. Well, I will say it's not perfect, but we need to make sure that we invest in it. I lived in DC for 4 years. I didn't have a car. I still don't have a car, but I was using my bike. I was using the metro. I was using the bus, and I loved it. It was on time. It was $2.50 to go from one place to another, and I loved it. Why can't we have that here in Austin? I talk to UT students that say, I'm going to the airport. I'm paying $150 in an Uber just to go to the airport. Or it takes me going on the bus almost 2 hours just to go to the airport. We need to make sure that we have a better system. We can have actually having just even bike lanes that are safe for our students. That and their communities. People want to make sure that they are conscientious of our environment, and they want to go from one place to another without worrying about insurance from the car, the gas going so high. So we have a great opportunity to really work on those issues that are important to the people that are building our beautiful Austin. I think it's detrimental, and it breaks my heart when I hear people that literally work every single day downtown and that they have to go live in Manor, Cedar Park, Round Rock, because they can't afford to live here in Austin, in the place that they are making better. And we have a great opportunity to organize. We have a great opportunity to file bills that can really help our community.
Yeah. Some of those issues, though, people would say, well, those sound like great city issues, but this is a state seat. You feel like there's state legislation that can have an impact there?
For sure. It is all about working in collaboration with other state representatives. And when we talk about the issues, this is, yes, housing and transportation and education are issues that are important here in Austin, but they're also important in the whole state of Texas. So learning from one another, collaborating for one another is going to be an essential piece. As an organizer, I will do my mapping of who are the movers and shakers, who I need to build relationships with, who I need to work with. And I will do that because those are the skills that I've used for 25 years as a bilingual educator, as a union leader, working at the federal government. And I know it's not going to be easy, but as an organizer, I know that once I put my organizer hat on, I figure out what do I need to do, who do I need to bring to the table to ensure that we do what is best for our community. And I know that we have a great community that is thirsty to be part of of our legislative session too. And so I bring that opportunity of bringing people together with me.
Give us some final thoughts for viewers about why they should elect you this May.
Well, I invite everyone to go vote, number one. I became a citizen in 2012. And I love voting because I know that that is the heart of our democracy. And you have an opportunity this May 26th to elect someone that is going to be inclusive, that is going to bring new voices and energy and an organizing way of doing things at the legislative session. I am a prime example of the American dream. And that American dream is still alive. As hard as things are at the national level and the state level, I bring that importance of that American dream, that it can be achieved. Even a young, undocumented child who loves their community can become a state legislator for our community, Juntos for Justice and Unidos for Change. Thank you.
Now, Kathie Tovo makes her case to voters. Thank you so much for taking some time out to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
I want you to tell us what you feel is the biggest difference between you and your opponent in this race.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm super excited to be in the runoff. We had lots of candidates, 8 of us in the primary, and so, I'm really honored to be in the runoff with my opponent. The main difference is really the kinds of experience that we've had leading to this point. And, I'm the only one in the race with the experience of actually working in a legislative setting, of passing legislation, of amending legislation, of running a constituent office. And so, that experience that I had as a 3-term city council member, I believe is one of the real big advantages I bring to the race. That experience, passing legislation and really working with colleagues to compromise, to, mitigate the harm of certain policies, and frankly, standing up and stopping some proposals that were going through that were not in the best interests of the community.
When you think about your platform, for this particular race, and if you're successful in November, what would you say is central?
Well, I have there are a lot of issues I want to affect change on, but there are 3 main areas that I'm going to focus on: education, environment, and affordability. And, those are all really important to the constituents in this district, as well as other Texans. With regard to education, we need to fully fund our public schools. On the other end of that spectrum, I'm really concerned about what's going on our university campuses. As somebody who came to Texas to get a PhD from the University of Texas, I taught in American Studies. I got my degree in American Studies and cross-listed in Women's Studies. Those departments have now been consolidated along with, various others. And so what's going on our college campuses is of real concern to me. With regard to affordability, I want to see us really expand access to affordable health care, affordable, high-quality child care, affordable housing. Those are all things that I think the state can do better for, working families. And then with regard to the environment, we have some real challenges. As we all know, we're living in a time of climate change, and we really need to bolster our communities, help them build up that kind of climate resilience that will help them, better prepare for wildfires, for floods. And, in the midst of all this, the data centers that are coming in great numbers to Texas pose real concerns with regard to energy use and water use and customer pricing. And so, that is probably the most immediate thing on the horizon. I noticed in the interim charges, a lot of the different committees that are meeting through the summer are dealing with data centers, and that is going to be a real critical issue, I believe, for the next session.
Yeah. Hitting on those 3 points, there was one that stands out to me because there's 2 polls that came out in April, and affordability was the top of mind, right, for Texas voters. Whether it was, whether or not they think the economy is better off, they're concerned about gas prices, affordability in general, inflation. What steps do you think the legislature can actually take to have a real impact in that area?
Well, in terms of some of those big, the big items in a family budget, housing is certainly, number one for most families, whether they're paying rent or have a mortgage. Housing is the biggest cost in most families' budget. And the second, for families with kids, tends to be childcare. And so, I do see the opportunities for the state to really invest better in and more in both of those areas by, perhaps using state-owned land for affordable housing, by really shoring up and investing more in their tax credit program, which enables it's a public-private partnership that really creates lots of affordable housing statewide, and certainly has done a lot in Austin. And then investing, more heavily in affordable, high-quality childcare and really bolstering that. Those can be some helpful things. In terms of, we do need to address the issue of food security. A lot of families, not just in this community, but statewide, are really struggling with regard to food security. And I think about that. When I think about that, my mind immediately goes to Governor Abbott turning down the federal dollars last year for the summer meals program. Those are the kinds of things that I'm going to fight hard for if elected to the legislature, because, we need to ensure that families in this state have the food they need, and especially the kids who are off for the summer have access to the healthy food they need.
When I think about your website and some of the messaging on your website, it's along the lines of stand with me, let's fight back against the Republican agenda, which is helpful, right, in a race like this with Democrats voting in a primary. But if you are elected, you'll have to work with people on the other side of the aisle if you're going to get anything done. Talk to us about how you intend to do that, or do you think you can do that when the messaging right now is so strongly, let's stop the Republican agenda?
I see those two things as really important and not mutually exclusive. I have, some really strong policy priorities that I think are really important for Texans in this state, and especially for residents in this district, with regard to education, the environment, and the other issues we just discussed. But I also am running because I am really concerned about the kind of legislation that's been coming out of the Capitol. And the Republicans have passed, very harmful legislation attacking our schools, attacking our universities, attacking our immigrant neighbors. I mean, we have got to have a very focused approach to stopping that kind of legislation. And I'm prepared to do both. I'm prepared to, build relationships on, in and outside of those public sessions and those public hearings. But I'm also, when there is harmful legislation on the floor, I'm going to be prepared to, go in there and work with my colleagues to stop it. And the skills that I gained on the city council of really diving into issues, researching them, knowing them well, being able to ask those hard questions are going to enable me to do that, to make amendments that, really dilute some of the harm of really awful policy legislation, or knowing the procedures well enough to make points of order and stop some of those bills from moving forward are absolutely going to be part of my intent.
During the primary election, you came in second, right? And again, it was a very crowded field. What are you doing to get your message out to voters? What are you trying to say to them so that you can hopefully win in May?
Well, I'm out every day knocking on voters' doors, talking with constituents, and I've got a professional canvassing team who are doing the same. And so, together we are covering the whole district, making sure that we're talking to voters, especially focusing on, those neighborhoods, both the neighborhoods where I did really well in the primary and some of the neighborhoods where I really need to spend more time introducing myself. And the response has been terrific, I would say. More people are coming to the door now that they're not being knocked on by 7 different campaigns. And so I'm having some really good conversations with folks. Many people remember the work I did on the city council. And now that we're a little further along in the race, they've had more time to think about it and more time to read about the different candidates. And so, I feel really good about where we are in terms of the level of support. But not taking anything for granted, running really hard and making sure that I'm communicating with voters where they are, going to community events, talking to them about the issues that are important to them.
What are you hearing from folks in terms of what's most important and what they want to see, their representative do at the Capitol?
Well, the most common refrain I hear are that voters in this district are really, really concerned about our state. They're concerned about our democracy. They're concerned about the really awful policies coming out of the Capitol. And so, they respond and really want to see somebody who is going to get in there and is going to fight, but fight effectively, really be able to stop this barrage of harmful legislation that's been coming from the Republican legislature. And they are interested in seeing somebody who can be effective and get work done as well. And I feel like those two things are not mutually exclusive, but we need to have somebody in this seat really with the skills and the experience to do both, to work on policy priorities and issues, but really to stop some of the bad legislation that's going on. And I'm prepared to do both.
You know, I do have to ask you, there was a comment that your opponent in this race pointed out. You said that you think you would fare better in the runoff because of who is more likely to turn out in the runoff, and not necessarily because, you know, as she would point out, being the better candidate in this race. Do you want to address that? What do you say to that?
Sure. I think she's responding to some work that a campaign consultant did, looking at who turns out for primary runoffs. And so, you know, that's what I guess she is referring to. You know, again, we are out in the field every day talking to voters at their door, and, you know, making sure that we're encouraging them to come back out to vote. It's really dreadful timing for this election, with Election Day being the day after Memorial Day. So we're trying to make sure that, you know, people know they can vote early. They can vote by mail if they're planning on being out of town, you know, which is going to be true for students as well as, you know, families that are planning on taking trips right there at the end of the school year.
Final thoughts for our viewers on why they should elect you in this runoff?
Well, I'm really passionate about public service. I've got a lot of experience in this realm, representing the whole city at one point, and then part of this district as a city council member. And I've got the passion to do the work, and also really the skills and experience that we need at this time. We are at a critical time in our state's history with really big challenges on the horizon, from public education to data centers coming to, you know, many, many other things in between. And the breadth of issues I really got to work on the city council are going to be of help. I got to pass some big initiatives as a city council member, from leading the charge on the Sobering Center to really leading the effort to help get some funding for AISD programs, from pandemic caregiver meals to after-school programs, and feel like I've got a good base of knowledge to start from in addressing some of those same issues, but now at a state level with, you know, a different political landscape and a different set of challenges.
Remember, Election Day is May 26th, and after the polls close, join us here on KVUE Plus for live results and analysis starting at 8 p.m. election night. Vote, Texas.